The envelope changed everything. I found it wedged between my mailbox and the post when I came home from work last Tuesday. My name was written across the front in careful handwriting that I did not recognize. Inside were 3 photographs of me as a child. I was maybe 7 years old in each one. The first showed me at a birthday party wearing a blue shirt and paper hat. The second was me on a swing set in our old backyard. The third captured me building sandcastles at the beach during our family vacation to Maine. I stared at the photos for several minutes before checking the envelope again. There was no return address and no note explaining why someone had sent them to me. The images were originals, not copies. I could tell from the texture of the photo paper and the way the colors had faded around the edges. These were pictures from my family albums, but how had someone else gotten them? My parents had died 5 years ago, and I had inherited all their belongings, including every photo album they owned. My sister lived across the country in California. She had not visited in 2 years and would have no reason to send me childhood photos without explanation. I called her anyway. She picked up on the 4th ring and sounded surprised to hear from me. I explained about the envelope and the photos. She insisted she had never seen the pictures before and had no idea how someone else might have obtained them. Her voice carried concern when she asked if I thought someone had broken into my house. I walked through every room of my house after hanging up with my sister. Nothing appeared to be missing or out of place. The photo albums sat exactly where I had left them on the bookshelf in the living room. I pulled them down and flipped through the pages methodically. The albums contained hundreds of photos spanning decades of family history. I could not identify which pages the 3 photos had been taken from. There were no obvious gaps or missing pictures that I could detect. The next morning, I decided to ask my neighbors if they had seen anyone suspicious around my mailbox. I lived on a quiet street with only 6 houses. Mrs. Patterson had lived next door for 20 years and knew everyone in the neighborhood. She was working in her garden when I approached her fence. I showed her the envelope and explained the situation. She examined the handwriting carefully and shook her head. She had not seen anyone near my mailbox and did not recognize the writing. Mrs. Patterson mentioned that a new neighbor had moved into the house at the end of the street about a month ago. She had not met him yet, but had seen him coming and going at odd hours. He drove a dark sedan and kept his curtains closed during the day. I thanked her for the information and walked down to the house she had indicated. It was a small ranch house with an overgrown yard and peeling paint on the shutters. No car was in the driveway and the windows were dark. I knocked on the front door but received no answer. I could hear a television playing inside and saw a thin strip of light under the door. Someone was home but was choosing not to respond. I knocked again and called out that I was a neighbor who wanted to introduce myself. Still no response. I left my business card wedged in the doorframe with a note asking the new resident to call me. I included my phone number and mentioned that I lived 4 houses down the street. That evening, I received a phone call from an unknown number. The caller identified himself as David and said he had found my card at his door. His voice was soft and he spoke slowly, as if choosing each word carefully. He apologized for not answering when I knocked and explained that he worked night shifts and had been sleeping during the day. He seemed friendly enough and agreed to meet me for coffee the following Saturday morning at a diner downtown. I arrived at the diner 15 minutes early and chose a booth near the window where I could watch for David. I had no idea what he looked like since I had never seen him clearly from a distance. At exactly 10 o'clock, a man in his 40s approached my table. He was average height with brown hair and wore glasses with thick frames. He introduced himself as David and shook my hand before sliding into the booth across from me. His grip was firm, but his palm felt damp with sweat. David ordered black coffee and asked about the neighborhood while we waited for our drinks. He seemed genuinely interested in learning about the other residents and local businesses. I found myself relaxing as we talked. He mentioned that he had moved here from another state for work and was still adjusting to the area. When our coffee arrived, I decided to bring up the reason for our meeting. I pulled out the envelope and showed him the 3 childhood photos. David examined each photo carefully, holding them up to catch the light from the window. His expression remained neutral, but I noticed his hands trembled slightly as he set the pictures down on the table. He claimed he had never seen the photos before and had no idea who might have sent them to me. He asked several questions about when I had found the envelope and whether I had contacted the police. His interest seemed genuine, but something about his reaction felt rehearsed. As we continued talking, David mentioned that he worked as a freelance researcher and often helped people locate missing family members or lost documents. He offered to help me investigate the source of the photos if I was interested. He had access to databases and resources that might prove useful in tracking down how someone had obtained pictures from my family collection. I thanked him for the offer and said I would consider it. We finished our coffee and agreed to stay in touch. Over the next few days, I could not stop thinking about my meeting with David. Something about his behavior had struck me as odd, but I could not pinpoint exactly what bothered me. He had seemed nervous beyond what the situation warranted. I decided to do some research on my own before accepting his offer to help. I started by searching online for any information about David and the address of his house. The property records showed the house had been sold recently, but the buyer was listed as a trust. I drove past David's house several times during the following week, hoping to catch a glimpse of him or learn more about his routines. His car was usually gone during the day and returned late in the evening. The curtains remained closed and I never saw him outside. On Friday evening, I noticed lights on in what appeared to be a basement window. The light flickered as if someone was moving around downstairs. I parked across the street and watched the house for an hour, but saw no other activity. My brother called me on Saturday morning while I was having breakfast. I had not spoken to him in several months. He lived in the same city where we had grown up, and still maintained contact with some of our childhood friends. I told him about the mysterious photos and asked if he remembered anyone who might have had copies of pictures from our family albums. He thought for a moment and then mentioned that our old neighbor, Mr. Chen, used to take photos at neighborhood parties and sometimes made copies for other families. My brother reminded me that Mr. Chen had been something of a neighborhood historian who documented local events and kept detailed records of families who lived on our street. He had moved away when we were teenagers, but might still have boxes of old photos and documents. My brother promised to try to track down Mr. Chen's contact information and call me back if he found anything useful. I felt hopeful that we might finally have a lead on the source of the mysterious photos. That afternoon, I received another envelope in my mailbox. This one contained 5 more childhood photos that I had never seen before. The pictures showed me at various ages between 5 and 10 years old. I was playing in different locations around our old neighborhood. One photo captured me riding my bicycle down our street. Another showed me walking to school with my backpack. A third picture was taken through a window and showed me doing homework at our kitchen table. These new photos disturbed me more than the first 3 had. They seemed to have been taken by someone who was watching me rather than by family members or friends. The angles and perspectives suggested they had been shot from hiding places or from a distance. I realized that someone had been documenting my childhood activities without my family's knowledge. The thought made my stomach turn and I felt violated in a way I had never experienced before. I called the police station and asked to speak with someone about harassment or stalking. The officer who took my call listened to my story and agreed that the photos were concerning. He scheduled an appointment for me to come in on Monday morning to file a formal report. He advised me to keep the photos as evidence and to document any other suspicious activity around my house. He also suggested that I avoid confronting anyone I suspected might be involved until the police could investigate. Despite the officer's advice, I could not stop myself from walking to David's house that evening. I needed to see his reaction when I showed him the new photos. His car was in the driveway and lights were on in several windows. I knocked on his door and waited. After a few minutes, David opened the door wearing a bathrobe and slippers. He looked surprised to see me and asked if everything was all right. His hair was messy as if he had been sleeping.
That's it for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on our next deep dive. Now, a question for you. What questions should she ask him now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that connect us all.